Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you at our discussion, which is called Sustainability for the Young Generation. And you could see the title of our discussion behind me. And my name is Marina Saprikina, and I represent Center for Corporate Social Responsibility, CSI Ukraine. And this roundtable is organized in partnership with our long-term partner, CSI Turkey. We are going to talk today about sustainability and SDGs and their meaning for young generations and for companies and other stakeholders. And we would focus on several questions. What are expectations of young people from companies on sustainability? Do we need to teach young people sustainability, or vice versa? Do they need to teach us? And do we achieve SDGs quicker if young people help us? During our discussion, I hope we will find the answer, especially because we have professional and diverse panelists today. It's a great honor for me to present them. So, Banu Yilmaz, sustainability consultant and SDG expert from Turkey. Banu has been working for 24 years in business, and then she has completed her doctoral dissertation about sustainability of the world. And now she consults companies how to develop purpose-driven co-creational model. And Banu, I like how you call sustainability. You call it a business revolution. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Anastasia Sabatyuk from Ukraine. Anastasia is a director of international relations for MHP Agriculture Company. MHP Agriculture Company is a leading agriculture holding in Ukraine, one of the largest producers of grain and poultry meat in Ukraine. And Anastasia has been working there for 14 years. Anastasia, nice to have you here.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hello. And our next panelist is from Turkey. It's Bülent Özcan, Director General for Financial Cooperation and Project Implementation and Directorate for EU Affairs, Turkey. And Mr. Özcan has had 20 years of experience in project management and implementation. He has lectures on the project management, and also he has attended Harvard University John Kennedy School of Government Executive Education Program. Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Very good to see you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kristina Kenchadze. She is environmental health and safety specialist for SNAP. Kristina is from Ukraine, but she has worked for Mondelez before, for Coca-Cola, for Nestlé. She studied in Belgium, and she is an SDG ambassador in Ukraine. Kristina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
And our next panelist is from Turkey, Sami Boyaci, co-founder of Impact Hub. And Sami has been working for Impact Hub for 7 years. Impact Hub is a global social innovation platform that brings together a community of people, especially young people, who collaborate and co-create for positive impact at 100 plus hubs around the world. And Impact Hub Istanbul is a part of the global Impact Hub community, and it provides a collaborative platform to inspire, connect, and empower impact-driven people from various backgrounds. Hello.
Hello, Marina. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone.
And I know that Impact Hub Istanbul is waiting for us. So if you're in Istanbul, please go there.
Yes, please. We would love to host everyone.
Great. And our last but not least panelist, Dmytro Tomenko. Dmytro is a youth delegate from Ukraine to UN. He has been working for business associations, and he is an SDG ambassador. Dmytro, hello.
Greetings to everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you that you have found the time being with us today at SDG Summit. So let's start our search for the joint answer to the key question on how to work with young generations for sustainability. And just one fact, young generations are seen to be more health conscious, socially aware, and environmentally responsible. Why is this so? Why is sustainability so important for young generations? Sammy, could you clarify this issue for us?
Thank you very much, Marina. Of course, I'm happy to share my views. It's a very big topic and question. I think why it's important for young generations has a multidimensional answer, but in my opinion, we can split this up to 3 levels. For young people, I think sustainability is, first of all, important on a personal level, second on a societal level, and thirdly on environmental level. And I think when in our works with young people, our main observation is that young people see very clearly that these topics are interlinked to each other, and they see that a societal issue or an environmental issue also has a personal aspect to it. So this is also reflected in the kind of work they do, in their values, and in companies they want to work, or in businesses that they want to establish. And connecting this to sustainable development goals, I think one of the most important, maybe the most important principle of the goals is that it provides a holistic perspective. So any social problem or any environmental problem are linked to other problems. And I think we got to see this, especially after COVID, like a virus could also be seen as a metaphor. And, you know, like we are as strong as the weakest part of the chain. So I think young people perceive this very well. And for them, they clearly see that with the pressing climate crisis and with the fact that 1% of the world is holding the most of the wealth of the world, like they have an anger towards these things. Maybe that's the right word. Like it's not just about being disturbed by it, but it's that they are also angry about it and they want to change the system. And for them, like the reason that another thing that they are feeling this, I think another fact that they are feeling sustainability is important is that they also, this is reflected in their personal lives. When we look at Turkey and when we look at Europe, we see that the unemployment rate is very high, and this fact is also affected by both environmental and societal factors, that they are not, young people themselves are not guilty. So there is a will to change this, and they are aware that if they don't change this, that the future is not going to be favorable for any of us. I think that kind of awareness is very high. And the second part of my answer is related with the fact that how they respond to this situation. But I first want to check with you if I should go on with that, or that will be the second part of the question. You are on mute.
It's a good start. Yeah. And I would like now to ask Christina. Christina, what do you think? Why is sustainability so important for young generations? Because now just saying it has said about future, about personal life, and about personal values. What do you think? What could you add to this answer?
Yes, thanks so much for the previous speaker. So yeah, it was really great, overview, like start regarding the why it's important. And regarding the research, more than 4 in 10 millennials and generations that like agree that we have already hit the point of no return, when it comes to the environment, and it's too late to repair the damage. And, I just want to write, one example. So my friend, she's also 24, 25 years old. And she said, like, she afraid to have kids due to the environmental crisis, like social crisis, the extreme weather events, and also regarding the climate refugees crisis. And, she doesn't want to see how her kids will survive or even, tackle the problems if our generation doesn't act, there appropriately. And this is like, it's also about, our responsibility for now regarding the future generations. And if we'll see, and so for me, it was so obvious when I saw the results of the Edelman research that like 33% of youth in America, they believe that the climate crisis, including deforestation, including the pollution, waste pollution, in one of the most pressing issues for their generations. And for EMEA and APAC regions, so it will be the same, because environmental issues are becoming important and essential for everyone, especially when everybody are already experiencing of consequences of the Anthropocene epoch. So this is why Sustainable Development Goals is a tool how we can engage the youth to tackle the problem now. And this should be not like good to have, but it should be must to have everywhere, in university, in corporations, in organization, in government agency. So and also it's also regarding the values, because when youth want to to work or buy some kind of products, they also think about what is behind these products and what kind of sustainable development strategies this company implemented. Because now our generation, we choose values, not only by different kind of salaries or some kind of other benefits. So I guess this is also about why the Sustainable Development Goals is really important for us, for youth generation.
Listen, thank you very much. So values are important, and they are even they less than money. Okay, but how do young people respond to the situations we see now? Climate crisis, pollutions, etc. I would like to tell you one fact. 73% of young people will support public protests to raise awareness of these issues. And it's interesting that this is in comparison to their older counterparts, it's much higher, because the previous generations perceive this less vocal and they're less optimistic. And also, Sami, you talked about that they are angry. So how do they respond to this?
Yeah, I think the response to this, like it started in the form of protests, maybe like as we see in the Occupy movements. I think that was the first kind of large-scale protests that was especially raised towards 1%. Like there, we remember the people holding those 1% versus 99% kind of signs. I think that was the biggest protest towards the rising inequalities. And I think that form of protest later start to be reflected in the form of different entrepreneurial models. I think social entrepreneurship is has grown like a lot in the last 10 and 15 years. And we also as company work with social entrepreneurs that work on different problems, let's say food waste, equal education, or green energy. Like they change a lot in topics. Like we see that young people are more open to establish their ventures, their enterprises or NGOs. Like it changes, models, forms change, but a lot of young people do want to do work based on solving social and environmental problems. So that's one of the way that they respond. And the second way they respond is some of them want to do this in organizations, like let's say entrepreneurship, in the form of entrepreneurship. They want to use organizations' resources, utilize organizations' resources in contributing to solution of social environmental problems. And these companies are also trying to adapt to this by engaging in more sustainability related work. Business for goals is like a concept that we hear a lot. So business achieving both business objectives as well as sustainable development objectives. So young people want to see organizations like this, and they want to join organizations like this, but they look for sincerity, like some real action. So those can be two main categories. One, entrepreneurial action towards the solution of SDG related problems. Second one is joining organizations that can where they can utilize the resources cleverly and take initiative to again solve social environmental problems. These organizations can be public sector organizations, private sector organizations, but they want to see that area of initiative where they can take initiative and do meaningful projects. I can categorize it in these two ways in a general sense.
Thank you very much. We will talk later about the second solution, about joining organizations which are sustainable. I have a question regarding social entrepreneurship. We have known this model for quite a long time. And have you noticed any difference regarding social entrepreneurship after COVID-19 times? Has something been changed?
I think it became even more important. So what we see is that social entrepreneurship, some social entrepreneurs in the beginning of the crisis, we had a survey at Impact Hub, like we launched a survey that was filled by 50 social enterprises. And in the beginning, their business and their outreach to their target groups was negatively affected, but they were quick in digitalizing their models, and some of them even grown more in this COVID times. Let's say Teyit.org is like a fact-checking organization in Turkey. I mean, because of the fact that in the crisis moment, misinformation in society increased, like they actually grew as an organization. So some sectors I think grew more, some sectors shrank a bit, but we saw that social entrepreneurship started to continue to grow as a trend. And also I think both society and like from a societal perspective, people got to understand the importance of social entrepreneurship more. I think world is moving in that direction, and business goals are now like business has to be more responsible, and they should also look for green and social goals. Like we have now legislations coming, like such as Green New Deal, like which is pushing enterprises and companies in this direction. So COVID will only make, I think, things move faster in this direction.
Thank you very much. So it's, in your opinion, it's on the trend in Turkey, or it's globally?
It's definitely a global trend, actually. Like this is seen both in terms of the new ventures being formed, and also actually we see it very clearly in the change in the financing structures. So financing structures for companies are looking more and more into impact goals. This is even more in like some countries than Turkey. Obviously, Turkey is a big part of this trend, but it's definitely global, and some countries are, you know, like have more funding structure like this. Some countries have less, but I think in each country it's this kind of financing and this kind of social entrepreneurial models are increasing in mind.
Thanks a lot. And now we will move to Ukraine, to Christina. And Christina, what do you think? Sami has just said that social entrepreneurship movement is growing. And what about your colleagues, your friends? Are they social entrepreneurs? And do they want to be social entrepreneurs? What can you say about this?
Yeah, thanks, Marina. So this is really great question, because, you know, social entrepreneurship in Ukraine, we don't have the legal frame. So we don't really understand what does it mean in the case like legislation. So it's more about the best practices that we can just take from different countries. But as I see, you know, my colleagues, my friends, when they just trying to start any kind of projects or, you know, the creative products, they start to think about, you know, environmental and social aspects, you know, regarding environmental. So they think, you know, is it going to be the cradle to cradle or cradle to grave principle? How we can dispose this product, you know, when we should we have, you know, the facilities to recycle it? Because in Ukraine, even in Ukraine, we don't have some kind of, you know, facility to just recycle some kind of packaging, for example. And regarding the social aspects, they also think about, should we, you know, produce locally, or what is the salary base? So I see the tendency that we have more, you know, the young generations that start to think more proactively, you know, regarding all these things. And it's really great. And they just, they have so great opportunity to just, to get this experience from other countries, because, anyway, in Ukraine, we just have the first step of this, so we don't have so many knowledge. And I really appreciate, Marina, for your company, because you are sharing so many information regarding how to do it, in this way. And regarding the American and EU, so they have already this kind of approach, but anyway, we just need more and more information and knowledge going from the corporation, because this is going to be just small entrepreneurship, small businesses, and we just want to see examples from the big companies as well. So this is how it works in Ukraine for now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Christina. And I think when we start talking about the projects and financing, I should give the floor to Mr. Bülent Ajan, because Mr. Bülent Ajan is responsible for financial cooperation and project implementation. So what can you add to this discussion?
Well, Marina, thank you so much, especially, when we are talking about the young generation, their reactions, their emotions to be part of the solutions of the world problems, or in another other side, when we are talking about the social entrepreneurs, which is mainly a kind of an young movement when we compare, the other, initiatives. So of course, financing is very, very important. So at this stage, when we are looking at the development of the financing of social entrepreneurs, of course, it is also very growing trend. So when we are looking at, for instance, in the private part of it, there are a lot of venture capital, funds which are providing project finance to the proposal of the let me say young generations social entrepreneurs on the one side. Other side, in many countries now, the governmental financial instruments also started to be developed. So in some countries, some are finalized this process and they have their legislation, they have providing funds through the ministries, with different segments. In some countries it is growing and at the preliminary stage, but this is one issue, is the fact that this is a sector, it will be developed. For instance, let me give information from Turkish side. For instance, we do not have in the central level, maybe we do not have a very well structured support for social entrepreneurs, but on the local level, for instance, through the development agencies, which is located in different parts of Turkey, there are very good instruments for social entrepreneurs to receive funds for their project ideas, or constructive venture capital supports. It is really highly growth, and now a potential for grow more, not only in Istanbul but all over the, let me say, different parts of Turkey. When we are looking at international funds, like for instance European Union support to Turkey, support for social entrepreneurs is also one of our priority. Now we are working with different governmental institutions to establishing grant schemes, and in the next coming years there will be a lot of different opportunities for young generation, especially for social entrepreneurs, for different kinds of funding. Or when we are looking at the UN institutions like UNDP or UNSCR, again there are a lot of initiatives. So as a result, we can say that when we are looking at different opportunities, when we are comparing, for instance, 5 or 10 years ago, there are a lot of different instruments, starting from private companies, venture capitals, or government funds, local funds, or even some municipality, initiatives. Municipalities also supporting funds, some local initiatives to provide, solutions their problems in their region. So it is a very good, great potential now, and I'm sure that in the next coming years there will be a lot of opportunities for many young people, that could be part of all these ecosystem, I could say.
Thanks a lot. And I have one question. And do you have some financial scheme or financial grants for young people on projects devoted to SDGs?
Yeah, I could say not maybe 100% to SDGs, but for instance, all our EU funding, in Turkey, there are some cross-cutting issues, and one of the cross-cutting issues is always SDGs. So gender equality, environment, climate change, and SDGs. It should be covered. So all the projects, even you are part of technology, or it's a kind of a project in the agriculture sector, it should be in line with the SDGs. So this is the 100% rule. This is very good, but concerning the young, of course, there are some initiatives. For instance, we can talk about Erasmus program. When we are talking Erasmus could be known as a kind of a student exchange, but it is not only a student exchange program, because yes, one university student could be go another university in Europe for a session, but Erasmus is not like that. I mean, not only that. There are a lot of different parts in the Erasmus, and for instance, there is only one part for youngs. So it is a kind of a young exchange, young employment, young initiatives. There are different types of project proposals. Even you are a university student or not interested, the coverage of the age is 13 to 30. So it's a huge, target group. So for young people come together without any kind of legal body, they can apply for funds under Erasmus. Or from the last year, European Union introduced a new program called as European Solidarity Corps. And solidarity is highly related with the problems that the society faced. So what is the objective of the problem is to establish solidarity among young to overcome the problems of the society. So any issue, climate change, agriculture, unemployment, technology, entrepreneurship, any kind of issue you can handle with a project idea, and you can apply for Solidarity Corps. Even without a partner, anyone, 4 young people come together, they can apply. Social entrepreneurs come together, they can apply. Associations, NGOs can apply. I mean, so it covers a kind of a huge, a target group. Or, if you would like to be a kind of an international project, you can work with youngs from different parts of the Europe, and even including Ukraine and others in Black Sea or Mediterranean, and you can come together with different youth, and you can apply for Solidarity Corps project. So this is highly related with the young people. So I strongly recommend anyone in the young age that to learn more about European Solidarity Corps, to learn more about the Erasmus Plus youth program. So these programs are very, very highly related with to provide solutions for that issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ozan. It's very interesting. And Sammy, my question for you, have you applied to these funds? I mean, Impact Hub.
Yes, we did a couple of times, and we were also sometimes part of the consortiums that were awarded.
We are working with Impact Hub in different projects, as Semi said, as consortium partners.
Exactly. For example, one of them is Turkish Social Entrepreneurial Network, which is like a Turkey-wide social entrepreneurship network with different consortium partners. We are one of the partners there, and it's a very important project that brings together actually the social entrepreneurship ecosystem also in a digital platform. Also, like we guide a lot of the ventures that we support to this kind of funds. For instance, I was also listening to another webinar of Mr. Bülent Özcan yesterday, actually. There, for example, there are also a lot of funds focused on, for example, if you're a green venture. So social entrepreneurship is like a spectrum. Some, like some of them are more impact oriented. Some of them create more environmental output. Some of them create social impact. So if you are focusing on an environment and have a scalable technology, for example, there are so many different options there. You can also, in that case, get conventional VC, venture capital funding, Horizon 2020 funds like from Europe. There are a lot of options. And like I think as long as if your social venture has a technology component, it's easier to get funding. If it's like a more grassroots model, it's maybe better for grant-based funding. So I think here the business model part is very important. So what's the business model? What kind of impact the venture creates? And according to that, what are the financing mechanisms that are more suitable to that purpose? I think that's the most important part to think about.
Thanks a lot. Sammy, when you mentioned two ways of how to respond to being active in SDGs and sustainability, you mentioned social entrepreneurship, and you mentioned to choose organizations where your values coincide with the values of the organization. But now I think we could also add the third one, to submit for the grant and to solve the issues of the community. And as I see in Turkey, it's quite easy to make. Thanks for this. And now I would like to focus on your second solution. So how to choose organization which you like, which is acting along with your principles. And by the way, there is some fact which really impressed me, that 81% of those under 30, 81, believe brands are an essential part of the solution for the global challenges facing humanity today. So this is, I think, quite high bar for the high expectations for the companies. And what companies have to do now to stay interesting and competitive for young generations? And Banu, you have 25 years of expertise in work and business. So what is your answer?
First of all, I want to thank everyone and express my pleasure to be in this valuable roundtable in the European Summit. Engagement of the younger generation with SDGs is an issue that should be paid attention to also for companies. Due to the decrease in world resources, the sustainability efforts of companies have gained even greater importance. This importance is primarily important for the future, but is also of great importance for the reputation and the corporate sustainability of companies. To sum up in one word, companies need to understand the concerns and future expectations of young people if they want to be a more attractive company for younger generation. Then being aware of the fact that the current competitors in this sector are also working in this direction. It will be important to transform these evolutions into the strong, successful, and open to continuous improvement projects to support the existing projects. A defined and specific engagement of the youth for SDG purposes will be ensured by the awareness of companies. The implementation of this project with multi-faceted stakeholder participation will strengthen the awareness of the SDGs in the society. The participation of different stakeholders, such as non-governmental organizations, universities, the government, and other stakeholders of the companies into these projects to be worked with young people will make a great contribution. Companies, the business world, have the power to create an ecosystem, networking, and financial power. They dominate the business processes. They need to use all the strengths into the concrete their projects of youth on SDGs. Young people are no longer just aiming to earn money and have a job. They are aware of the economic, social, and environmental problems that the world is in, and they want to be a part of the solutions to be realized for these problems. This year, especially at the UE Summit, we are discussing the climate crisis and how can we overcome it. In fact, we still feel its effects today, but for our children and youth who are our future, this issue is much more important. There are some researches about the concerns of young people for the future, and the data shows us that there is a sadness over the climate crisis. As well as the climate crisis concerns of young people, corporate companies also have important concerns on this issue. The Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, which examines the climate change strategy of large companies on a global scale, stated that 4 out of every 5 companies are concerned about the physical risk posed by climate change in the report Monitoring the Progress of Companies' Climate Action 2016. And as a result, I would like to say that if companies want to be an interesting and competitive company by the younger generations, they should strive for SDGs. These issues are the issues of the whole society waiting to be resolved. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So companies should focus on SDGs. And Anastasia,
Yes.
What do you think about this? What companies have to do to stay competitive for young generations?
Thank you, Marina. Hello, everyone again. So I have to say that for sure, the companies should share with the young generation the same values. And in order to understand that we take into account and discuss the same things, we have to ask them what kind of values they have. We can feel it, right? We can see that through the examples, through their behavior, through their attitude to different things, changes, etc. But it is very important when we ask them. And when we get the answers, then definitely we have a good plan in order to implement the changes and in order to change. I'm talking about the company at the moment, of course, because, of course, young generation is one of our stakeholders, right? One of the most important, actually, because anyway, we're talking about new people with new, I would say, energy, definitely. And this energy, their new ideas, innovations can change the future of the company in a better way, for sure. So that the company can become more efficient, more proactive, definitely can become a leader, or at least to keep this strong position, right? That is why definitely it is important to hear them and to change. And then when it comes to a change, then the company should have a strong will, resources, people. But I think the strong will is the most important to make this change happen. Otherwise, unfortunately, it doesn't work. Otherwise, let's say the outcomes of the first initiative will not result in a good result, right? That is why I would say, yes, we should understand the values. We should hear the stakeholders, the young generation, and then we have to change for better.
Thanks a lot. In your opinion, how many companies in Ukraine have this strong will or strong desire for change?
I would say many companies communicate that we are ready for such a significant change, but not many are doing the real steps. That is for sure, because we all hear that sustainability is our goal, or we are becoming more and more eco-friendly or environmentally friendly, or we are replacing this with that, etc. But at the moment when you dig into details and ask for a real plan, right, real steps going forward, and the real target I mean, how you achieve it via KPIs, that will be quite a challenge to give an answer.
Anastasia, thanks a lot. Banu, and the same question to you. In Turkey, in your opinion, how many companies have this strong desire for change? We can't hear you. You're on mute.
The supporting implementations of companies for the engagement of youth on SDGs can be examined under two parts, because I will sum that what can be done by the companies for young generation, which are not working in any place, but they are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, because these young people have the ideas and knowledge and experiences for a sustainable world, but they need to have the opportunity to meet with a business world. And in the second part, I will explain that what can be done when young people in the business world become employees of a company. As mentioned before from the other speakers, that the young entrepreneurs are very important for implementing the SDGs in business life. Today, young people's awareness of the economic, social, and environmental problems in the world is increasing. Accordingly, we see that some of the young people who want to be entrepreneurs, starting from the universities, have started to create initiatives within the scope of sustainable projects, such as environment, nature protection, and energy efficiency. In order for these entrepreneurial young people to design and implement their projects, the support of the business world and the NGOs that cooperate with the business world in different projects will be beneficial. The supports of companies can also contribute to youth unemployment, because the fact that the companies are with young entrepreneurs and even making financial investment in some project as angel investors will enable entrepreneurial projects to contribute to employment. How can these supports be provided? Companies can support young people by creating ecosystems, providing networking and financial support, creating platforms that bring together some non-governmental organizations, companies, and entrepreneurial projects, and organizing motivating competitions. In this context, the companies can establish platforms and organize competition, especially with some non-governmental organization, where they can choose and support successful projects together. It's also great importance that the universities encourage their students to develop projects for SDGs and offer opportunities. Another way that the benefiting from their own field activity, depending on the company's current conditions, the companies can allow their own field of activity, laboratory, factory, etc., to use by the entrepreneurial young people. For example, while supporting the development of many entrepreneurial projects on the environment, such as digital agriculture, alternative fuel consumption instead of fossil fuel, waste management, reduction of carbon gas emission, they actually contribute to the sustainable development goals. Competitions also that will encourage the development of SDGs are also very important. There will be participants from the other countries of the world in a competition held in any country, and there may be information and know-how transfer between young people and countries within the framework of the SDGs. Here's another important point, is mentoring. Companies can also contribute to the entrepreneurial work to be carried out for the SDGs by mentoring, transferring knowledge, and guiding young entrepreneurs. For the part two, I can say that the companies have to make an effort not only to include the young workforce into the company, but also ensure the continuity of this workforce in the organization and to establish employee happiness and loyalty. Generally, these implementations are related to the employees' learning and developments. As of the end of 22, according to results of address-based population registration system in Turkey, the young population constitutes 15.4% of the total population, and so engaging in activities that strive for the development of SDGs will naturally have a great importance for our future.
Banu, thanks a lot, and I think it's a perfect mixture, because Anastasia told about internal factors, and you also mentioned external ones, so to create ecosystem, etc., etc. Metro, I'm interested in your opinion. What companies have to do to stay competitive for young generations?
Well, thanks for the question. Actually, I also wanted to mention that I will totally agree with the thesis of Ms. Anastasia talking about the values. As for me, like, it's very important, like when the HR, like the company itself, tries to understand the values, like what is important for the young person, like actually listen and hear the important thing, like hear the ideas of this person, because like as much as young people can bring to the company, this is exactly another way of thinking, another approach, another ideas, like what can be brought. Actually, as for me, the most important thing here is to understand like what is important for the young person when you employ him or her, and to understand this way of thinking and way of living, because for example, this person can be engaged like in other like active civic events or something like this, or connected to the NGO movement or other stuff, actually, and try to support it as much as possible, because the flexibility here is an important thing when you are trying, or not only to think about the profit and the day of working, like for example 8 hours and that's it, but you are supporting the ideas of this person you're considering, and giving your support to the hobbies and this civic engagement work and that this person does. Yeah, this is the thing. And so I will say the focus of flexibility and sustainability here is really, really important, because of people are thinking not nowadays, people are thinking not only about the salary itself, but also about the motivation to self-develop, and of course to bring this positive footprint, like not to be that harmful in your production, but to exactly give this positive footprint. So here we're coming out of two theses. So make sure that company understand your own values, and to make sure that you make people understand the values of the company, why does it exist, and how important is the stuff that we are doing.
Thanks a lot. I have a practical question. How can young generations understand the values of company?
Well, I would say that this very much depends on the person, but I will say that when you're entering the company and coming for an interview, you need to make sure that not only you are trying to learn about the company, but the company also is interested in you, to make sure that you are not coming exactly for money, but you are coming to help this company itself, to make it, to help it to develop, to improve, to use other styles of working, to increase profit, of course, itself. But I will say that it's very needed to make people understand the values, to understand that the work you do, like, can give this positive, exactly like this positive footprint, and to make the analytics, like in the end of the year, that like with your help we did this, like, and this is our common achievement of this year, that for example we employed you and we brought this changed, this appeared. So probably like with this educational but we will say light educational and understanding way, like this is the very important point.
Very interesting, because now you're talking about engagement, and just one fact, 93% of corporate employees under 30 agree that the more socially and environmentally responsible their companies become, the more motivated and engaged they will be as employees. And Anastasia, in your opinion, have you noticed this trend?
Absolutely. That is why actually, Marina, since 2020, I have to say that at the company, we didn't stop operations at all, and we've been visiting office through the time of COVID. And at that time, we decided to do so because, as you understand, the majority of our employees, of our team members, are at production plants. And if we stopped going into the office, then that would give them a very bad sign that you continue to work and we go home. Okay, so that was not the right decision. And so since 2020, we've been introducing different initiatives actually at the headquarters and actually at the plants as well, right? Supporting people, because first of all, we understood that definitely we have to support people from the like psychologists, right? So we've established the courses, and we've established the let's say the schedules, so people could visit psychologists right in the office, and we started to monitor the situation through the young generation or older generation, that this is something what they really wanted. They really wanted the support, especially when there was a history on the market, right, with COVID-19 pandemic, etc. Right. We also supported people with learning. And by learning, I mean not just like courses, but definitely what they wanted to learn, right? So we started to create small groups. So let's call that groups of interests, right? And people could share their knowledge. And of course, there was a coach who could add more value and organize all these people together. And more different initiatives, frankly. But all the time, before we started to do something, we had a questionnaire in order to understand what exactly in need, what is required. And we continue to do so at the moment, right? Because, for example, the requirement is a little bit different now. There is no history anymore. Yes, people can go to psychologists again and again, but there is no history on the market. And therefore, the situation, for example, is more or less calm, I would say, even though we are approaching the third wave of COVID in Ukraine, etc. But at the moment, people started to think more about health in general. Right. So that is why we are providing them with testing systems. So doctors come to the office, and so they can talk to doctors free of charge, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks a lot. Vana, I have a question to you, because when we're talking about young generation and how companies can stay competitive for them, Anastasia told about to understand values of young people who are going to be to be recruited. And the question for you: how can companies understand the values of young people?
Mm-hmm. Companies should discover the talents and competencies of their employees, and then can they establish committees in these directions with the scope of SDG. Because the most important thing to understand the concern and the future expectations of young people and also employees in your companies also. Because now young employees want to see the companies that they worked, they are doing for all society. It depends. For example, some of young generation now are working on the SDGs with some NGOs, and they want to see the same direction in the companies as well. What can we do in this point? There are lots of things for companies. For example, when they recruit any people to your company, first of all, you have to add some sustainability information and sustainability developments trainings into the trainings program in the welcoming time. It's very important because employees can understand the company's needs and expectations from them, and also they can see the same intense and the same ideas and same direction in the companies. And also this is very important for corporate sustainability, because if the employees can see these mutual targets and having the mutual targets with their companies, they will have more loyalty to the companies. It's a very important issue to have the good loyalty and also the happiness to work in this in your companies. It is a very important issues, of course. Another idea, maybe we can say that understanding the young people, always they have to make some brainstorming with them, because the solution is young generation. And if we combine their ideas into our business projects, strategic business projects, maybe we can find the solution easily than I expected.
Thanks a lot. I think it's very practical recommendations. And now I have a question to Mr. Arjan. Banu told about creating ecosystem, and companies can do this. But in your opinion, or perhaps you have some cases when companies approach some financial schemes you were talking about, and they also become the sponsors or participants of this scheme. So they invest their money in some grants, in some development agencies programs. Do you have such cases?
You mean the cases providing funds through the governmental bodies, or for different?
Yes, for young people through these development agencies, for example.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so when we are looking at the public framework, I mean, of course, to provide, to develop some schemes for young generations, or or young entrepreneurs or NGOs who is working in the field of youth. Of course, this is also a very important issue on the agenda of the governments, not only in Turkey, but in all over the world. So because when we are looking at the procedures now, the world is not the world in the previous years. There are a lot of problems that we have faced, a lot of unemployment. We are of course talking about the digital world. We are talking about industry 4.0, 5.0, so robotics. So there are a lot of problems provide and create jobs to the young people. So this is very, very, very problematic on the one side. On the other side, many of our colleagues here talking about youth in the new generation, in the new world, do not working in the in the multinational companies or companies in the private sector, that they will work from the morning to 9 to the to the nights. But they would like to be, or with huge salaries, but in comparison, they would like to be part of, the institutions or the companies that they are also dealing with, try to find out solutions. It could be a private company, but on the other side, it could be try to provide solutions to the sustainable development goals. So, or many of them try to be as entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, or be part of big or large-scale NGOs who is providing solutions on environment, climate change, health, cancer, or other kind of things. So things are changed. The idea, the understanding of the youth also changed. So the governments should have to provide problems to that. So that's why there are a lot of now strategies that are developed by nationally or locally for the youth people. So in these strategies, many governments are trying to find out different schemes, sometimes providing funds or sometimes providing services or coaching, mentoring to the young people in order to involve them to the social life, to the professional life. So this is very, very, of course, important. So now we are facing centrally or locally a lot of schemes from the governmental institutions, and it will be more in the next coming years because the rate of unemployment will be higher. We will see that because the effects of pandemic on economy now, or the effects of climate change, this makes the economies not so much as in the previous years. So all these negative effects also reflected to the youth, employment of the youth, entrepreneurship of the youth. So there should be ways to support them. So the funding schemes, of course, always the number one instruments provided by the governments.
And companies, are companies a solution?
Sure, of course. I mean, now we are facing, for instance, in the previous periods, we are not facing that kind of things, but now we are facing companies sometimes providing funds to the youth, or sometimes not funds but some facilities. Or for instance, they are organizing hackathons, or they are organizing competitions for solution to the world or country or regional problems. They invite young people to be part of their, let me say, to be part of their solutions within these competitions, schemes, or other kinds of. For instance, just today in morning, Turkey in one of the very, let me say, very competitive SMEs of Turkey in the field of automotive, and receiving a lot of innovation funds from the government. Together with the governmental institutions, they open a grant scheme to the youth to provide solutions for the green factories. So they invite young people and provided 200,000 Turkish liras to their, let me say, ideas of young entrepreneurs for the green fabric, green installations. So we can see, I mean, even they receive funds from government, organize it, and make it together with the governmental institutions. They're organizing these kinds of schemes. So now we can see not only the multinational, even these kinds of some middle-level SMEs also involved in this process.
Thanks a lot. It's a great example. And when we are discussing that companies should compete for young people, we didn't discuss with what kind of organization they should compete. And Sami, I think that companies should compete with NGOs, with social or environmental purpose. What do you think about this? And is Impact Hub Istanbul a competitor for business? What do you think?
You mean competitor in terms of attracting young people, or?
Yes, recruiting young people.
I mean, I would say like Impact Hub, I think what we do is like we are kind of in the intersection between like civil society mindset and the business mindset, and I think that's quite attractive for young people. And yeah, when it comes to attraction, maybe we make for some countries companies harder to attract talent because we provide like an interesting place to work and a popular place to work for young people. Sometimes it's the case that, like, for example, like we have been operating for 6 years and none of our people who worked with us and who left they didn't go to private sector actually. So maybe that could be a sign that they are a bit, they prefer to be more entrepreneurial. I mean, what I would tell here is that, like when I look at young people, I think, you know, like I see on the private sector side, like with the companies that we work with, we work a lot with international companies and also the ones that are originated from Turkey and the multinational ones. I think there is a retention crisis for sure, like when it comes to attracting and retaining young people. And like especially qualified young, when it's qualified young people, it's even a bigger problem because they have more alternatives and it's really hard to keep them. And I think to be able to keep them, like private sector, you know, like especially when it comes to SDG objectives, sustainable development objectives, like they need to be bold, you know, like I think now we passed the stage, you know, like of promises, and I think young people want to see like concrete actions followed by promises. And I think what they want to see is that, like, what's the vision of the private sector, you know, like what's their theory of change also on societal level, like on societal and environmental issues, and what's their role as individually in contributing to this vision. I think like the challenge for big companies is to make this clear for young people, and the ones that can make it, I think will have more advantage in competition because they will be able to retain like better talent.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So during this small section, we discussed how companies should do to stay competitive, and they should understand values and demonstrate their values. They should hear their stakeholders, and they should be ready for a change. We have been talking about young people, but what about kids? Should we work with them? Should companies work with them? And by the way, there are 20 youth-specific targets spread over 6 key SDGs, and one of them is goal for education. So how to bring SDGs into school agenda, and do companies need to bring SDGs into school agenda? Anastasia, what do you think?
Thank you for the question. Frankly speaking, I think yes for both questions, right? Definitely kids should be aware of what is going on in the world, what drives the change in the world or changes, right? And definitely SDGs in different aspects, and different aspects of SDGs are very top on the agenda if we talk about the changes, right? Definitely, and that was actually confirmed, I have to say, in one of the pilot projects and one of the projects we had in 2021 at different schools in 3 regions of Ukraine, right? When we started to talk with children, to communicate with them SDGs, to involve them into the SDG life, etc. It looks like that definitely children are ready to hear. They are ready to have a positive impact on the society, on the environment. They're small change makers, which is good. But what is more important, I have to say, that it's like when it is like when you have a small stone and you throw it into the lake, and then you see small circles. They become bigger and bigger and bigger. So in reality, when you start with kids and you communicate the SDG idea with them, so then they can communicate this idea with their parents, with their relatives, with their neighbors, and then again and again this idea and this let's say, environment becomes bigger, more extent, right? So definitely everything from small becomes big. To SDGs scenario. To answer the question, should the companies get involved into that? I think yes, because either it is a private individual or a legal entity like a company, right? We are all change makers. If we are ready to change the world for better, not for worse, it's a good stuff. If we understand that definitely there are good examples you can share, right, with kids, and so that can change their life, the life of their families, the life of their villages or cities, that is definitely a good drive for sure. So I would say yes, it doesn't matter either it is a private individuals or a company. Definitely we bring good things. We are ready to change, and we are ready to change for better.
Thanks a lot, Dmitro. I also know I know that you also have implemented such kind of project for schools. So could you share your opinion? Should we go to schools to teach SDGs?
Actually, yes, that's true. And we've also been working with some organizations like Isaac, for example, for coming closer to schools. But I will say that talking about SDGs itself as a term, yes, in the primary or middle school can be a bit challenging to make people understand what it actually is. But I will say the most effective idea here can be promoting the values of UN and SDGs itself to make people like kids understand on the concrete examples how can you change the world to become like a superhero in this small age. Yes, in order to sort out the trash, like the rubbish, switch off the light, switch the water in the tap, and etc. Like in order, how can we make this world better? But the closer you're coming like to the last classes, yes, when you will graduate and etc., like there can appear some, we'll say, like educational hours, yes, where teachers can make, like, for example, the Isaac had the initiative like of world largest lesson when they tried to talk more about the SDGs and the climate change. I would say involving also companies to such educational hours when they can show their cases, how do we help, not like look how cool we are, yes, how do we earn money, that is our budget, but to show what are exactly we doing and how can you help, how can you also become part of this change making process. So I will say the closer they are coming from graduating to school, these educational events can appear to make sure that people understand what it actually is. So like this.
Dmitro, in your opinion, role of companies in bringing SDGs into school agenda, should companies be engaged in this?
Exactly. Coming back to the thesis that we're not that cool for that we're earning that much money, but I would say definitely, because this is the social footprint of these companies, and like if people are coming and saying that we did this and this influenced like the world like this, on the huge example of like the leaders or the companies, that how they improve in this society in your own community, and you can see because of our work this appeared, this change, that's why the infrastructure is like this, or you are receiving like more ecological products or something like this. This depends very much on the company itself. But if they see like these leaders, these big players, let's call it like this, are doing it responsibly, so why shouldn't you do it? So therefore, I think the company is itself, as by showing their social footprint, how do they change the world? Yeah, I think it will be very useful for young people.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot, Sami. And what about social entrepreneurship in schools? Do you work with schools on this topic?
Yes, actually, like I mean, we didn't work with like before high school age, like, but we went to high schools, like to like work with young people. For instance, like in a project we did with Pirelli, like the international organization, we focused on entrepreneurial education in high schools, and they made like a hands-on year-long program where young people established, like received like different courses focused on entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and then they came up with a project at the end of the year. We started this with one school, and then through a digital platform we disseminated to like many high schools. But before that period, like we didn't make any project. We think it needs a bit of a different expertise, like when the age group gets smaller. So like I think there is definitely a need to explaining social entrepreneurship also to that level, but I think like that we need to have groups, like that has experience working with those age groups. I think that's why we didn't get into that part.
Mm-hmm.
But for high schools and universities, like we very actively make effort to explain social entrepreneurship in detail.
Thanks a lot. We need more people with sustainable thinking, and if sometimes we lack such people, we should go to schools and teach sustainable thinking there. Now I would like to open the floor for recommendations. And please, my dear panelists, could you recommend to companies, to governments, and to other actors, for example, to universities, what they should do to support young people in their ambitions for sustainable world, for sustainability and SDGs? Banu, could we start with you?
Yes, thank you. Companies, I suggest that companies can work much more than now with NGOs because it's a very important issue, and because NGOs have got a great experience and also know-how, and they know each SDG's detailed points, and also they work with kids, young people, companies, government. They have a very big stakeholders. There are lots of kind of stakeholders, and they can see the all stakeholders' perspectives of the whole society. Because of this reason, I suggest that we can work with NGOs much more than now. And another recommendation is related to sustainability reporting. Is a very key issue in the implementation of SDGs in the whole society, because sustainability reportings of companies are important for all stakeholders. But here we are discussing for young generation, and we have to include the ideas of young generation to our supporting reporting systems. And also maybe we include all young peoples and also employees during the time of reporting sustainability report, and also after reporting period finished, we can discuss the results. What can be done much more better than I used to implement in our company, for example. And also they can discuss the results of sustainability performance of companies. It's a very important thing is the having the feedback and involving the ideas and support of young people towards our all sustainability strategies is a very important. And also another important issue is involving the KPIs, key performance indicators, include all sustainability efforts because during our time, during when we work in our companies, there are some little lots of emails, etc. We can meet some busy. We can be busy, but always it's important thing that we never forget that always all efforts towards SDGs will be paid attention to include on the reporting systems and also the HR policies. It's a very important thing.
Thanks a lot. Very practical, and I would sum up with engage in young people in all sustainability activities. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Christina, what you can add?
Yeah, so I agree with Banu, so regarding the engagement and everything, and also reporting. So it's essential for us just to understand what exactly the company is doing. You know, and the one more point that I would like to add, like regarding the governance agency. So I guess it's our, you know, it's a duty to create this space, you know, for the young generation voice to be heard, and you know, also engage them in driving the solution. And it's really great example. You know, I really like the how the COP26 is created the event for the young people. So they just gathered 400 young people just to provide them a floor and just to say how they would like to act, you know, regarding the climate change. So I guess this is also great to provide this kind of, you know, space to be heard. And it's also related to the private companies, because, you know, I was working in the big companies, and it's sometimes so difficult just to implement something because like a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of things, and sometimes think, okay, maybe later, because it's like, you know, it's some kind of thing. So I guess we should find the solution, how we can, you know, create or implement the, you know, the young projects in more easier way. And also regarding the, some kind of collaboration with NGOs as well, because it's essential that private companies is working with NGOs, especially is related to the manufacturing companies. I guess it's also, you know, everybody should be heard. And the last one, I guess it's about the, you know, their ambassador programs that I have been, you know, involved, and it was really great because, you know, 17 people, we had so great cross-functional team, and, you know, the solution, we just engaged with other people as well, our you know, friends, colleagues, and this is going to be also great, you know, advice for the universities, for the corporate organization, and also even you know, government agency, just to implement this kind of the system and program. And we will see how it's, you know, and the results will be really, really great. So thanks.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for mentioning the ambassadors. I will be very soon to start the edition of this program, so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. And Mr. Ojan, what do you think? What are your recommendations?
Well, of course, my point of view, especially considering the recommendations, at this stage, two things are, from my point of view, is very important. The first thing is the time. The second is the budget or the finance or the cost. I don't know how you would like to, you know, define it. But the thing is, there are a lot of efforts to support sustainable development goals, youth, issues concerning the youth, including social entrepreneurship and everything. But the thing is, when it was divided, or when it was go not hand in hand or not in close cooperation, you know, there are a lot of efforts, a lot of time, and a lot of budget. So what is important is the economics of scale. What is important is the efficiency. What is important is the cooperation. So if the institutions come together and work together, then the impact, the output, and the targets that we would like to reach will always higher and higher when we are comparing the individual efforts. Unfortunately, we have seen, for instance, in the private sector, there are a lot of companies in the name of corporate social responsibility spending a lot of money, but even not asking any question to the governmental institutions. No cooperation with schools, universities, or again, as I mentioned, it's central or local administration. So there are a lot of individual efforts. When we are looking at the government, this is the same. The government, preparing, strategies, developing grant schemes, but if it is not cooperated with different actors, including, private sector, NGOs, vocational institutions, professional institutions, then the results are the same again. So what is important is we have, scarce sources, scarce finance, but what we need is to cooperate. So what is important is to provide more impact. There could be efforts, especially from the public side and private side and its NGO side. Common efforts, joint efforts is the most important thing. So I think what we should be aware of, and what should be responsible for, to have common efforts in these fields. Otherwise, as I mentioned, there are a lot of things, a lot of efforts, but the results, outputs is always very limited when we compare it to the joint effort. So my recommendation to more cooperation among the partners, among the decision makers, and the institutions in different level.
Thanks a lot. Anastasia, what do you think? What are your recommendations?
First of all, I'll have to say that in order to communicate something, right, we have to understand what we are talking about, and that we definitely mean what we mean, right? So we have to agree on terms, frankly. And the story tells that, unfortunately, many people understand different things under sustainability or SDGs, really. The majority thinks that, it's about the environment, but it's not. Or no, it is the same as corporate social responsibility. No, it's not only social responsibility. So we definitely need to agree on terms. This is my first recommendation. Second, in order to make it happen, for example, I mean that the sustainability becomes a part of the company's life or the country's life, right? First of all, you have to have a strategy, right? So you all of you understand what the company is going to make to change, so everything changes smoothly and gradually, year by year, and you set the target, right? And then it becomes a heartbeat of the company's heart, right? Definitely. I would say only after that, the big change is possible.
Thank you. I think Anastasia, Sami, what do you think? What are your recommendations?
I mean, I think my general recommendation is, like, for all business and organizations, is to, consider the negative externalities of activities and business activities in general. When we are doing good, are we also making harm to somewhere else? So that's also kind of the logic of the SDGs, I think. My other point is also related with partnerships. Mr. Özcan also emphasized that point. I mean, there is a very significant reason that there is just one SDG dedicated for partnerships, like partnership for the goals. I think that's the real problem. For example, I mean, when it comes to CSR projects, sustainability projects, it's not a matter to have like successful pilots. Let's say a big hotel chain making like a good food waste project as a sustainability or CSR project. Like, the challenge is how we scale this successful pilot to industry wide or to other industries. Like, these are the parts I think organizations are not talking to each other much, and I think in order to do so, first there should be an intention, and I think the willingness and the openness to talk to other organizations by reducing the feelings of competition, because unfortunately what we see is, even in a single program, sometimes like two corporations, even if they are not in the same industry, they don't want to put their logos on the same program and things like this, I think are harming a lot our sustainable development journey, like as a society in general. And yeah, that would be my main message. And one last thing is related with young people and giving them more opportunities. I think like organizations in general should reward risk-taking behavior more, especially when it comes to projects that are in favor of society and planet. I think like when we don't do this, then young people or any kind of employee like stops taking risks and leading projects. So I think that's kind of a final message that I would like to give.
Thank you, Sami. And Metro, last but not least, what are your recommendations?
Thanks a lot. So first of all, I will say that company I will advise to give such an opportunity as a job shadowing, to make sure that it's like not just a regular study visit, to make sure how does the company work, how does it earn money, and etc. But how does this or that specialist work, and exactly why does this company exist, to make sure that young people who are coming, they understand, and they can in the future understand whether they want to work here or they want to search for something else. For companies here also not to ignore such opportunities as job fair events like in the universities or other educational institutions, to make sure that this is the closest way to come to young people and propose your values to them. Also one more thing, like to focus less on the age, but to understand the wish, the initiative, maybe some skills, some knowledge, some exact wish to well, we can say to develop yourself more, because of this or that type of person can bring much more to your company, but just he or she needs some time to well, let's say to be here in the company and understand how he or she can help exactly. So the idea is to give these changes to you, and of course to understand that each person is individual, but individual not as an adjective but as a noun, and exactly he or she needs the special approach and special type of communication with each of them. So to make sure that his or her ideas are also not just listened as some thoughts, but also heard and can be taken into consideration.
Thanks a lot, Metro. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, Banu Ilma, sustainability consultant and SDG expert. Thank you, Bülent Özcan, Director General for Financial Cooperation and Project Implementation at Directorate for EU Affairs. Thank you to my dear SDG ambassadors, Kristina Kinchadze and Dmitro Tomenko. Thank you to Sami Boyachi, co-founder of Impact Hub, and thank you to Anastasia Sobotyuk, Director of Investor Relations, MHP. Today, at our discussion, we have discussed why sustainability is important for young people, what are their response, and we invented free solutions for them. And also we discussed how companies stay competitive, and also why companies should go to schools. And also you gave a lot of recommendations for companies and for governments, and I think the most popular one was about partnerships. And I would like to really underline that partnership is very important, especially to stay competitive and to work with young people who really value such thing as partnership. So I really would like to wish to invest money in sustainability, because it's very important for young people, and I wish not to have any time limitation, as Mr. Özcan said. So thanks a lot, and thank you to CSR Turkey. Thank you for CSR Europe for organizing this European SDG Summit. SDGs are very, very important. Let's focus on them. Thank you.
Thanks.